Welcome back to Front Porch News. I am Nora.
And I am Edward. Today we are doing another What's Really Going On With episode. And the topic is the Middle East, which is a sentence that should probably come with a seatbelt and a glass of water.
It should. This is sensitive, complicated, and emotionally loaded. We are going to keep it grounded in current reporting, but also human. No cheering for suffering, no pretending every hard question has a bumper sticker answer.
And no taking sides in a way that turns families, civilians, soldiers, immigrants, or religious communities into symbols. The goal is to help an American listener understand why this matters at home, why the United States is involved, and why careful strength can be a good thing.
The latest picture as of Friday, April 17th, 2026, is this. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened to commercial ships. President Trump says the United States blockade on Iranian ships and ports will remain in force, while Washington keeps pressure on Tehran for a broader deal, including on the nuclear issue.
The Strait of Hormuz is not just another blue line on a map. It is one of the world's most important energy choke points. When ships slow down there, or when mines, missiles, drones, sanctions, or fear enter the picture, oil markets do not politely wait for a committee meeting. They move.
There is also a fragile 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon that began today and appears to be holding in its early hours. It was brokered by the United States, according to Associated Press reporting. Thousands of displaced Lebanese families have started trying to return home, but there is still destruction, uncertainty, and warnings around parts of southern Lebanon.
The word fragile is doing a lot of work there. Fragile like a coffee mug on the edge of a counter while two toddlers argue nearby.
Gaza remains part of the wider moral and strategic picture too. Humanitarian suffering there has been intense and long-running. Any serious conversation about the Middle East has to care about civilians, hostages, aid, security, and the future of people who did not choose war but have to live inside it.
Then there is Yemen and the Red Sea. Houthi attacks and threats against shipping have mattered because the Red Sea is a major trade route. When ships divert, insurance gets expensive, delivery times stretch, and eventually somebody in Ohio, Texas, California, or Michigan says, "Why is this thing at the store more expensive again?"
Which brings us to the American kitchen table. If you are a middle-class or low-income family, you may not be tracking the Strait of Hormuz before breakfast. You are tracking gas prices, grocery bills, rent, electric bills, car insurance, and whether the kids need shoes again, despite the fact that you personally just bought shoes.
Children grow out of shoes like they are in a secret deal with Big Sneaker.
When conflict in the Middle East hits energy markets, the first visible place for many Americans is the gas pump. The Energy Information Administration said in March that crude oil prices had risen as petroleum shipments through the Strait of Hormuz fell, and some Middle East production was shut in. The agency's forecast was clear that gasoline prices were highly dependent on how long the conflict and supply disruptions lasted.
Associated Press reported this week that energy prices helped push wholesale prices sharply higher after the war in Iran, sent costs up. That kind of wholesale pressure can travel through the economy. Fuel affects trucking. Trucking affects groceries. Diesel affects construction. Construction affects housing supply. Housing supply affects...
So yes, a family in the United States can feel a Middle East shock without ever reading a foreign policy article. It arrives as a few more dollars at the pump, then a higher delivery fee, then a grocery receipt that makes you stare into the middle distance.
That little pause at self-checkout where you reconsider every life choice. International relations, aisle 7.
But we should be careful. Not every price increase is caused by the Middle East. Housing prices are also shaped by zoning, supply shortages, interest rates, local jobs, construction costs, investors, insurance, and simple population growth.
Inflation has many parents. The Middle East is not the only one who forgot to pick up the kids.
The honest answer is, conflict can add pressure to an already tight household budget. It can make the Federal Reserve's job harder if energy prices feed into inflation expectations. And if rates stay higher for longer, families can feel that in mortgages, car loans, credit cards, and small business borrowing.
That is the worry. Now, the other side. Why does the United States do anything at all? Why not just stay home?
Because staying home does not always keep the world out. Oil is globally priced. Shipping lanes are global. Terror groups can destabilize regions. Nuclear proliferation can change the risk map for decades. Allies matter. Trade matters. And when violence expands, eventually ordinary Americans can pay for it in money, military risk, or insecurity.
The United States is not perfect. No country is. But at its best, America brings something important to the world. The ability to hold coalitions together, keep sea lanes open, push for ceasefires, deliver humanitarian aid, deter worse wars, and remind violent actors that the world is not a playground for whoever has the most rockets.
That is strength with a purpose, not chest thumping, not, look at us, we are the main character. More like, we have a very large fire extinguisher, and occasionally someone needs to stop juggling candles near the curtains.
I like that image because it is humble. The United States can act like a stabilizer without acting like it owns everyone else's story. The best version of American leadership protects American citizens first, supports allies, reduces the chance of wider war, and leaves room for civilians on every side to live.
And that phrase, American citizens first, should not mean indifference to everyone else. It means the job of the United States government is to safeguard American families, their security, their economy, their soldiers, their children, and their future. But America often protects those interests by preventing chaos abroad from becoming a bigger storm.
Think of a low-income family where both parents are working. Gas goes up by 70 cents over a month. That may not sound dramatic to someone with a corporate card, but for a home health aide, delivery driver, warehouse worker, school aide, or construction laborer, it matters. It can mean skipping takeout, delaying a car repair, or saying no to something a child needs.
And if that family hears, this is all happening because America is involved in the Middle East, they may understandably say, why are we paying for this?
A fair question. The answer should never be dismissive. The answer is, the United States is trying to prevent the more expensive version. A wider regional war, a closed energy choke point, major attacks on shipping, nuclear escalation, or allies being pulled into deeper conflict could cost American families far more over time.
It is like fixing the roof before the storm gets through the ceiling. It still costs money. It is annoying. You still complain while writing the check. But the alternative is a bucket in every room and a raccoon claiming the attic. Not ideal.
We promised no raccoons unless relevant. And somehow, you made it relevant.
I serve the narrative.
The positive story here is not that war is good. War is terrible. The positive story is that diplomacy, deterrence, and pressure can create openings. A ceasefire in Lebanon, even a temporary one, means families may sleep without explosions for a night. The strait reopening means shipping risk may ease. Pressure on Iran is partly about preventing a nuclear-armed future that would make the region and the world more dangerous.
And if American pressure helps keep sea lanes open, that is not abstract. It protects groceries, medicine, auto parts, farm equipment, heating fuel, and the global trade system that keeps American shelves from turning into a sad scavenger hunt.
We should also talk about evil carefully. There are evil actions: terrorism, hostage-taking, attacks on civilians, using people as shields, ethnic hatred, religious hatred,
trafficking weapons to prolong war, targeting ships that carry ordinary goods. Naming those actions is not the same as hating entire peoples.
That distinction is everything. Americans should not look at Muslims, Jews, Arabs, Persians, Israelis, Palestinians, Lebanese, Yemenis, or immigrants from the region and treat them like walking foreign policy positions. People are people. Governments and armed groups make choices. Civilians pay bills, raise kids, mourn, pray, cook dinner, and worry.
And people here in the United States feel that too. A Jewish family may be scared by anti-Semitism and by violence against Israel. A Muslim or Arab American family may be scared by anti-Arab hate and by images of suffering in Gaza or Lebanon. A veteran family may be scared of another deployment. A truck driver may be scared of diesel prices. A young couple may be scared that interest rates will keep a first home out of reach.
All of those concerns can be real at the same time. That is not moral confusion. That is adulthood with a spreadsheet.
For our kids, the long-term question is bigger than 1 month's gas price. What kind of world do we want them to inherit? A world where nuclear threats spread? Where armed groups can choke trade routes? Where shipping lanes become toll roads for violence? Where allies do not trust us? Or a world where the United States still has enough strength, credibility, and restraint to help keep order?
Restraint matters. Strength without restraint becomes arrogance. Restraint without strength becomes a strongly worded memo in a burning building.
The balance is the work. The United States can be proud of its role without being cocky. Proud that American diplomacy can help broker a pause. Proud that American naval power can keep commerce moving. Proud that American energy production makes us less vulnerable than many countries. Proud that humanitarian aid remains part of the American tradition. Proud that our debate, messy as it is, still asks whether policies serve ordinary citizens.
And also humble enough to admit that foreign policy has trade-offs. There are risks. Military pressure can escalate. Sanctions can have side effects. Allies may disagree. Civilian suffering can deepen if leaders miscalculate. Good intentions do not automatically produce good outcomes.
Which is why citizens should ask sober questions. What is the objective? How does this protect Americans? What is the exit path? How are civilians being protected? How are service members being protected? How does this affect fuel, food, housing, and jobs? What is the plan if the ceasefire fails?
That is patriotism too! Patriotism is not turning off your brain. It is caring enough to keep the lights on in there.
Let us bring it back to a family. Imagine a mother in Arizona filling up her car before a shift. She sees the price and sighs. She is not thinking about Hormuz. She is thinking about whether the grocery budget survives the week. The foreign policy answer must respect her. If leaders ask families to absorb short-term pain for long-term stability, they owe them honesty, not slogans.
And imagine her kid, 10 years from now, living in a world where a major nuclear crisis was avoided. Trade routes stayed open, allies still trusted America, and violent actors learned that the United States had patience, strength, and follow-through. That kid may never connect that stability to today's headlines. Stability is weird that way. You only notice it when it leaves.
That is why the uplifting part has to be realistic. The guardian angel idea is not that Washington always gets everything right. It is that the best American tradition is protective. It tries, sometimes imperfectly, to stand between ordinary people and the worst outcomes. Wider war, chaos, terror, economic shock, and fear.
Not an angel with a trumpet, more like a tired parent standing in the hallway at 2 a.m. saying, "Nobody is fighting in this house tonight."
That feels very American.
It has slippers.
Another family to think about is the military family.
A spouse at home, watching headlines, wondering whether a ship, a base, or a unit will be pulled closer to danger. That family deserves a foreign policy that does not treat service members like punctuation marks at the end of a speech.
Exactly. Support the troops cannot just be a yard sign. It has to mean clear missions, serious planning, honest risk, and a country that remembers the people carrying out policy are human beings with kids, mortgages, dogs, bad knees, and favorite cereals.
Then there is the small business owner. Maybe she runs a landscaping company, a diner, a delivery service, or a repair shop. If fuel costs rise, she either absorbs it, raises prices, cuts hours, or delays hiring. None of those choices feel patriotic. They feel like Tuesday.
And if she hears leaders say, "Do not worry, this is about global stability," she might say, "Fine, but global stability did not pay my diesel bill." That is why the best explanation has to connect the dots without sounding smug. Short-term pressure is real. Long-term instability can be worse. Both statements can be true.
Parents also feel this through their children. A child hears Middle East and may only know it means adults look tense. Maybe a classmate has family in Israel, Lebanon, Gaza, Iran, Yemen, or the wider region. Maybe another classmate has a parent deployed. The way adults talk matters. Kids learn whether hard news becomes curiosity, compassion, or suspicion.
That is a very underrated American responsibility, not letting foreign wars turn into cafeteria cruelty. If a kid with an Arabic last name, a Jewish last name, a Persian last name, or a military parent walks into school, they should not have to carry the entire news cycle in their backpack.
The long-term upside is not guaranteed, but it is real enough to work for. If the United States helps prevent a nuclear crisis, keeps commerce moving, pushes temporary ceasefires toward more durable arrangements, and shows that power can be tied to restraint, then our children inherit a safer system.
And a safer system is not flashy. It does not trend. It does not produce a dramatic movie trailer. It looks like ships arriving, planes flying, families sleeping, oil prices stabilizing, allies talking, and fewer parents explaining explosions to children.
America also has strengths that make this moment less hopeless. We produce a lot of energy at home. We have deep alliances. We have the world's most capable Navy. We have diplomats who work in rooms no one sees. We have farmers, engineers, ports, refineries, truckers, aid workers, and military families who all form part of the national backbone.
And we have citizens who can hold two ideas at once, be proud of American leadership, and still ask hard questions. That is not weakness. That is the operating system when democracy is doing its job.
It is also worth saying that a positive American role does not mean America alone fixes everything. Regional countries have agency. Civilians have voices. Allies make decisions. Adversaries make decisions. The United States can guide, deter, pressure, support, and sometimes protect. But it cannot magically turn grief into peace by snapping its fingers.
If it could, the State Department would be a much stranger building.
The VOP is more practical than that. A reopened strait can lower pressure. A ceasefire can create space for talks. Protected shipping can reduce freight shocks. Humanitarian access can save lives. Nuclear pressure can reduce future danger. These are not fairy tales. They are pieces of stability.
Pieces matter. Families are built out of pieces. Budgets are built out of pieces. Peace is often built out of pieces too, which is frustrating because everyone wants the giant button labeled fixed.
So, what should listeners do with this? First, do not panic when headlines are dramatic. Watch the indicators: shipping lanes, oil prices, ceasefire status, diplomatic talks. and whether violence is spreading or narrowing.
Second, separate people from governments and armed groups. Your neighbor is not a proxy war. Your coworker is not a missile launch. Do not make American communities pay socially for conflicts they did not create.
Third, be honest about household pressure. If gas and groceries are up, say so. It is not unpatriotic to feel squeezed. The dignity of policy is whether it remembers the family counting dollars before payday.
Fourth, keep the long view. Sometimes short-term price pain is the cost of preventing a much larger crisis. But that argument only works when leaders are transparent, careful, and focused on American citizens.
Fifth, hold on to hope without getting naive. Ceasefires can fail. Talks can collapse. Markets can swing. But diplomacy can also work. Pressure can create openings. Naval protection can keep goods moving. Humanitarian aid can save lives. And American leadership, when it is steady, can make the world less dangerous.
That is the thread today. Not victory laps, not panic, not blame the neighbor anger. Just a clear-eyed belief that America is strongest when it protects its people, steadies the world, and remembers that the point of power is peace.
What is really going on in the Middle East is not just about the Middle East. It is about the gas tank, the grocery cart, the mortgage rate, the soldier's family, the refugee family, the Jewish family, the Muslim family, the factory worker, the nurse, and the kid who deserves to grow up in a world where problems are managed before they become disasters.
And if we can keep our moral compass while doing hard things, that may be the most American part of all.
That is what's really going on in the Middle East. Oil, peace talks, and the American kitchen table. I am Nora.
And I am Edward. Keep your head clear, your neighbor's clothes, and maybe do not let the gas pump write your entire